Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and I'm here today to talk about Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 1 Part 2, or I guess Ninjago Dragons Rising overall, just the entire first season. Because of course, if you don't know, the first season of Ninjago Dragons Rising, this year's Ninjago season, just came out about a week before this video comes out. And I watched it a week ago, but it wasn't out for everybody, and I want to give some people some more time to watch it. And I know it's not out in every country yet, I believe it's going to be out in most places by November 1st, but I gave it a week from the initial release date, and I just have so much I want to say about this season, so I'm making this video to talk about it all here. Obviously, there is going to be spoilers in this video. I won't start out with spoilers, so if you haven't watched the season yet, you don't have to click off the video just yet, but I will get into spoilers later on, and I'll let you know when that's happening. But yeah, I guess real quick, before getting to spoilers, in short, I absolutely adored this season. This is everything Ninjago should be. It brings me so much joy. It reminds me of the Ninjago that I watched as a kid. Because I did grow up when the pilots were airing, like that's when I fell in love with Ninjago, was when the pilots in Season 1 were airing in 2011 and 2012. And Dragons Rising very much feels like that era of Ninjago to me, but also expanding upon all of the other eras that came after. Like, I truly believe this might be the Ninjago season that reaches the widest audience possible. Because as much as I love like Sons of Garmadon and Hunted, and I think they're some of Ninjago's best seasons, on the other hand, I don't think they're necessarily the best for kids. I mean, I'm sure kids can still like them, but I think Dragons Rising does a great job of being like silly and fun, but the characters feel real, they feel like themselves. And I love that every character is given a chance to shine too. I was worried about this with the new ninja being introduced in Eren and Sora. I was worried that the old characters would be tossed to the side or they'd just become sort of like one-dimensional versions of themselves. But that's not the case at all, and in fact the opposite. I think that was an issue in some of the previous seasons, like especially the 11-minute seasons. Sometimes the characters weren't the focus, they'd become a little one-dimensional. I think this was a big issue with like Jay and Kai. If they didn't have a lot to do, they'd just become kind of boring characters, which is a shame because the two characters I really like. And Zane too, Zane especially. Zane's my favorite ninja, but I feel like a lot of the times he really isn't done too well. But man, 22 minutes is just so good and we get so much here. And again, I love how much this builds upon like existing Ninjago lore. Like there's references to pretty much every single season that's come before this one, but it's also entirely a new show like it's pitched as. So if you've never seen Ninjago before, this is a great place to start. But if you've been a longtime fan, they very much reward you for that. There's so many different little references and everything. It just truly feels like everything coming together, and I truly, truly love it for that. I think another really cool thing that really helps this season is the fact that this season is not the ending. And that's something we really haven't seen in Ninjago before. Like we've kind of had two-part stories before with like SOG and Hunted, or even Season 1 and Season 2. But a lot of times like character arcs are finished at the end of one season and then it's just something new the next season. The villain's finished at the end of this season and it's the new villain next season. And I really like that it looks like Dragons Rising isn't doing that. This season left me with a ton of questions, and at first I was like, I'm a little disappointed that these questions weren't answered. But then I realized that's because they're not meant to be answered, because they're going to be answered later on. And of course that's something that a lot of TV shows do, but it's something that Ninjago hasn't really done before. So that gets me very, very excited for what's to come. But yeah, if you're watching this video but somehow haven't watched Dragons Rising yet, please go watch it. It's amazing. But now let's get into spoiler talk. Let's talk about each of the episodes and theories I have and questions I have. Let's just go through all of it because I have a lot to say. I'm of course mainly going to be talking about Part 2 in this video because I already talked about Part 1 in a previous video earlier this year. I guess I'll put a card to that in the top right corner if you want to go check that out. But yeah, I'm going to be starting my discussion with Episode 11 here. So Episode 11, the Temple of the Dragon Cores. This one I thought was a good start to the second half of the season. Felt very much like a break between the first half and the second half. One very minor thing, I was a little disappointed to see that we didn't actually get to see Eren get his ninja suit. He just didn't have it in Episode 10 and then he had it in Episode 11. I know there was a big time skip there and we did have a whole conversation between Lloyd and Eren at the end of Episode 10 about Eren becoming a ninja. But I don't know, Eren really wanted to become a ninja, so I think it would have hit harder if we actually got to see him get that. But yeah, this was a very exposition heavy episode. I like seeing the Temple of the Dragon Cores, that whole like giant tree area, I forget what they called it. Very interesting location. Curious to see what they're going to do with that, like going forward, like what other lore is that going to have. And then they have that lore they establish about the first Spinjitzu master being the one that created some of the other realms. That, I don't know how to feel about that, because it's already been kind of retconned that the first Spinjitzu master even created Ninjago in the first place. Like, yes, he created the land of Ninjago, and like he was the one who created Ninjago as we know it now, but CBelloStudios kind of implied that Ninjago already existed and the first Spinjitzu master just turned it into the Ninjago that we know today. So I have faith in the writers that that's going to turn into something more and that's going to like make sense, but I don't know, the way that lore was dropped seemed a little bit odd to me. I really like seeing the dragon stables and all the dragons. It reminds me a lot of Season 1 of the show when they also had dragon stables. And I like how the dragons are actually characters this season. That's something we haven't seen in quite a while. But yeah, there's 3 that are featured pretty prominently and they all like have names and everything. And it's just so much fun and expands the world. I think it makes a lot of sense and it's weird that we haven't had that for so long. I guess actually 4 dragons if we count Ryu. This episode also canonized Rapton saying the phrase ninja what, which that's not something I ever expected to hear this show, but It was pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know, I think overall this episode was good, very exposition heavy, so I don't have a ton to say about it, but I think it was definitely a good starting off point for part 2 of the season. Next we have episode 12, Gangs of the Sea. At the very beginning of this episode, that's when they split off into groups. I like the different groups that they picked out. Kai and Wildfire is definitely my favorite of the dynamics, and I'll talk about that more when we get to one of their episodes. But it was cute seeing Nia want to take Sora with her and Lloyd wanting to go with Aaron. But then the rest of the episode, this was of course the Hydro Whipper episode, which I did really love to see Hydro Whipper. We got new variants of Hydro Whipper, which was interesting. I find this odd because the core Whippers exist, and we'll see later on, they did put the core skeletons in the show. So this was a very easy opportunity for them to introduce the core Whippers because it would have just been a model swap. But no, instead we got different colors of the Hydro Whipper specifically. Some of them had like the yellow like Gripe had, some of them had the blue like the normal Hydro Whippers, and then there's also new ones that have red instead. Lots of very cool characters that we will never get minifigures of. But I think this episode was good for building up Lloyd and Aaron's dynamic, and Lloyd like as the teacher. They built up Aaron's Spinjitzu power a little bit more too, and I like the twist with the whole crown with the Hydro Whippers. That was a lot of fun. I think this episode did suffer a little bit by not having any B-plots. A lot of the episodes of the season did have a B-plot, so I think the fact that it doesn't have one does hold it back a little, but still overall I think it's a very fun one. Not one of the best of the season, but it's a cute story, I think a good message, and I like how the Hydro Whippers get along with all the villagers at the end. That's very cute. But now let's move on to episode 13, Wildly Inappropriate. This episode was so much fun. I genuinely love it so much. I saw on Twitter a lot of people weren't really feeling this one, and that I don't really get. Like, I get Wildfire is meant to be kind of annoying here, but that's the whole thing. She's meant to be kind of annoying. You're supposed to, like, get that impression off of her. Like, you see how Kai reacts to her and everything. The whole point is this character is supposed to learn. So the character comes off as annoying to you, good, that's kind of the point. But I really like their dynamic, because Wildfire is very much who Kai was in the early seasons. And it's very interesting seeing, like, this older Kai look back at her and being like, wow, I used to be like that. And of course, Kai still does have a lot of those attributes himself, but he has to be more mature here and be the mature one in this situation. And I just think it's a very, very fun dynamic. This is also the episode where we see the core skeletons, and I think those are such fun characters. I know they only pop up for a second, but I really hope we see them again in a future season. I love just how big the world is now. The merge has opened up so much, so we can have just these one-off villains that we never really have to see again, but we very much could, and I love that they exist. The little rock creatures in the wilderness were very funny. I found that entire plot to be a lot of fun. Again, it reminds me a lot of season 1. This is the kind of thing where it was like a one-off adventure that does tie into the main story, but just like with these wacky characters and scenarios, and the whole like prank fake out thing at the end was very funny. The B-plot with Mr. Frohickey and Zane I didn't like as much, but I still think it was pretty cute. The twist that the third place prize was exactly what they needed was very funny, and I like Mr. Frohickey a lot as a character. I'm excited to see him more like in future seasons. We got to see Detective Zane again, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, it was a very, very silly B-plot, but I mean, that's what Ninjago kind of is. This is the Ninjago that I fell in love with as a kid, and I think kids especially will have a lot of fun watching this season. It's cool to see Chancellor Gulch return of all characters. I will say my biggest criticism of all of Ninjago Dragons Rising is not even a fault of the writers or directors or animators or anything, but it just makes me so sad that they don't have the assets from seasons 1 through 10 of Ninjago anymore. Because of course they switched animation studios after season 10, so they had to recreate everything, and they recreated some stuff, but of course stuff that was made for older seasons, a lot of it didn't get recreated because they didn't really need it. And that makes me a little bit sad because we get to see all these different characters in the crossroads. Like there's a few Serpentine, we got Hydro Whippers, we have Geckles and Munts, and of course a lot of these are assets they already had. But I wish we got to see like more of the original Serpentine, for example. And if we were still with Will Film, those assets would still exist. So I hope that eventually they start to build them back up, but I think that's probably kind of unlikely. So unfortunately, I think Mesmo is going to be the only Serpentine we see going forward. But yeah, episode 13, very, very fun episode. One of my favorites just because it's a lot of fun to watch. But then episode 14, wow, this one blew me away. The Last Djinn. This one was crazy. I love it so much. This is what I mean about the show showing a lot of respect to original Ninjago lore, because this is a callback to season 5 and 6 lore, which we haven't really seen since those seasons, and people have been wondering about Ninjago since season 6, and now we finally have our answer. Ericor as a character is genuinely just so cool. I love how he's sort of depressed, but they're able to sort of like lift him up, and the connection to the Sword Dragon Xanth is very cool too. The world building overall though is just amazing. Like I love how much they're establishing. Like Nia went out and she got this Djinn magic, and then they go to a Djinn for help. The world just feels so big and expansive now, and there's like all these different mythologies that are combining. It really feels like the possibilities are endless, which is something I can't really say before the merge happened. I think Nia and Sora's dynamic's really good too, and I like how Sora had that realization at the end that was like, oh crap, is Ericor acting the same way that I act? And the fact that Ninjago is just this little grain of sand that's gonna grow and grow over time until it becomes a land again, that is just so cool. Like, cool is the only word I have to say about that. But that's just such an awesome concept. I really hope we see Ericor again in future seasons, and I want a minifigure of him so bad. Just such a great episode all around. The B-plot with Zane and Mr. Frohike was fine. I liked this one a little bit less than the one in the previous episode. I don't know if we needed both of them, but I am happy that there was still a B-plot, so it gave you something to jump around between. Moving on to episode 15, They Call It Doom, we get to see a little bit of each of the ninja stories in this episode, though it mainly focuses on Aaron and Lloyd. With the Kai and Wildfire story, the chase with Doraemon was some fun action at least. I did enjoy that. And of course it ends with Heatwave getting blasted, and that sets up for one of my favorite scenes in this entire show. But that's in a later episode, so we'll get to that later on. But of course, this is the episode with the Lloyd and Aaron and Rapton story in the Mother Garden. The slug characters were disturbing. They were super textured on their face. I don't like how textured they were. Very uncanny considering how like smooth every other character is in this show. But the whole idea of the path being covered in salt was very, very funny. And I think it's a good message that Lloyd was teaching Aaron, like, hey, we should save Rapton even though he's a bad guy, even though Rapton turns on them at the end. We also get our first peek at the administration here, which we'll talk about more later on. And then Sora and Nia also make it to the Land of Lost Things in this episode, which is such a cool location, but of course that ties into episode 16, the Land of Lost Things. So now let's talk about that one. And I feel like these episodes just got better and better as the season went on. Because wow, this is one of the standouts of the entire season. Like, I know I just talked about how much I loved the previous 3 episodes, but this one was to a whole nother level. Like, there was a lot going on here that was really, really good. So of course, this episode's the reintroduction of Cole. It was great to see him again, and I love just the dynamic between him and Nia. But I also think it's really cute that Cole's been taking care of these kids in the Land of Lost Things, because that's kind of been one of Cole's constants throughout the entire series, is he's always cared a lot about kids, right? That's why he took in Baby Woo. And I think it's really sweet that that character trait like carries over here. We're also introduced to Geo here, the new Master of Fusion, and wow, what a cool character. Like, I really, really hope we get a minifigure of this guy, because I love his design, I love his personality, and I love his dynamic with Cole. Which, yeah, I guess we should talk about that, his dynamic with Cole. The first time I watched this, I was like, okay, so they're boyfriends, right? They're these two are a couple, right? This is a thing that's happening. And I was very happy to see that when I went to Twitter. A lot of people seem to agree with me on that, because that very much seems to be what they were implying here, which I'm definitely very curious to see where they go with. I hope it's a thing, because I do really like their dynamic. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see any more about it this season, because Cole's really only in this episode, and then he goes off to do his own thing, but hopefully we'll see him again next season. I mean, we will probably see him again in one of the future seasons, right? Cole's not, like, out of the show for good. But I hope we also see Geo, too, and it's not just Cole coming back. But yeah, I mean, they have a very strong bond. They both care about protecting these kids together, and I mean, literally Cole gets power through his relationship with Geo. I mean, I don't know. I like, if it's just a friendship thing, how come he needed his friendship with this guy to unlock this for him, right? He's had friendships with Jay, friendships with Kai, friendships with Nia. None of them unlock this new form, but suddenly he has this friendship where they hold hands and it makes a little heart around their hands, and now he unlocks this new form. Something more is going on there, and I love it. I also think it's very interesting that Geo is half Gecko, half Months. I know they just call him a purple Month in the show, but I mean, come on, he's half Gecko. Months don't have ears like that. But this is what I mean. I hope we see him again, because I feel like there's a lot more to expand upon with Geo as well. And I just thought he was a really sweet character too, like his little interaction with Sora when she's fixing up the machine. I feel like he'd be a great addition to the main cast in addition to like Sora, Wildfire, and Aaron. There was the like trash monster in this episode, I forget what they called it. But anyway, when they like ripped it open, there was that little thing controlling it. I pointed to my TV and I went, Z-Blob! That was a very funny twist of events, but I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I would wager to say this might be my favorite episode of the entire season, even including, like, part 1. Maybe not, but it's definitely in my top 3. Like, this one was really, really good. This episode also opens and closes with Wildfire and Kai helping Heatwave, and it's just building up their relationship more, and I think that's really, really cute as well. Like, Wildfire is very distrusting of Kai, but she's slowly learning that, hey, he's got some good ideas, and he's here to help. And I love just, like, the mentor-student relationship there, because, of course, Kai's the first ninja we ever see getting trained in Ninjago right back in the pilots. So seeing him take on that like master role instead is amazing with a character who acts a lot like him. I just love them so much. Such a great dynamic. And then something with this episode and then also the next episode, the administration, I want to talk a little bit more about the world building, because one of my biggest worries with the first half of season 1 was that they were exploring too much too fast. Because like there's the episode where they go to the Realm of Madness and it's like, okay, this is the Realm of Madness. There's rock monsters, there's earth dragons, cool. We've done the Realm of Madness. Now like that's one of the 16 realms done. If they ever want to go back there's nothing really to do because it's just sort of this barren wasteland with rock monsters and mud and dragons. And same thing with the Cloud Kingdom, right? We see the Cloud Kingdom and it's like, okay, this is what the Cloud Kingdom is. So I was a bit worried that they were going to treat all the other realms that weren't Ninjago sort of as like these single biome worlds, sort of like planets in Star Wars where it's like Tatooine's a desert planet and that's all it is. It's a desert planet. So both the Land of Lost Things and the administration made me very happy to see that no, that's not the case actually. Each realm has its own like little lands with their own unique properties. Like, the Land of Lost Things, such a cool concept. People from every realm, if they forget about something, if everyone forgets, they end up here. And we learned on Twitter that the Land of Lost Things is a part of the realm of Imperium. And same thing with the administration, they mentioned in the episode that it's a part of the realm of madness. So that shows to me that there can be like all these unique things in each realm. The realms aren't just a single thing. And then I am also jumping to episode 18 here, but in episode 18 we learned that Roz comes from the realm of the wildness, which is the same realm that Wildfire comes from. And of course the leading theory about Roz was that he came from Shima, because we know that Shima's a realm. So when I first heard that, I was like, oh wow, dang, the Shima theories are gone, which is a little bit of a shame, because I thought that'd be really cool if Roz came from Shima. But maybe they're not actually, because you know the phrase, the realm of Shima, has never been said in Ninjago. We know of Shima as a show, and we've seen Shima in Ninjago, but it's never been called the realm of Shima. That's just what we've called it. But if the administration could be in the realm of madness, and the Land of Lost Things could be in Imperium, maybe the land of Shima is in the realm of the wildness. I've got a feeling that's probably not the case, but I'm hopeful, because I think it would be really, really cool. But I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. Anyway, back to episode 17, the administration. I think the administration is a very funny concept. Just like they're in the realm of madness, and everyone's just so crazy, they're just waiting in lines and filling out forms for their entire life. That's such a silly idea, but I absolutely adore it. And I think it's very interesting that we see Jane this episode, and then we don't see him again for the rest of the season, so I guess they're gonna have to come back here at some point. I don't know when that's gonna be. I'm surprised how the ninja didn't come back by the end of the season, but I guess they want to stretch that out across multiple seasons. The Cursed Realm is also name dropped in this episode, which means yes, the Cursed Realm was a part of the merge, which I guess we all assumed, but I mean, the Cursed Realm was destroyed, and then it was in the Departed Realm, and also the Cursed Realm's a living thing. So the Cursed Realm's a part of the merge, did the Preeminent just sort of like open up and become land now? That sounds pretty painful. But yeah, this entire episode was a very fun little adventure. I really, really enjoyed it. But the absolute highlight of this episode for me was the scene between Kai and Wildfire, because wow, it was just so touching. Again, building upon the original series, they sort of tap into what Kai was up to after he lost Nia to the sea. Because both Seabound and Crystallized, we never really got to see that too much. We saw it a little bit in Crystallized when him and Jay were fighting, but I know a lot of people, myself included, wanted to see more of Kai's reaction. So Kai talking about how Master Wu taught him to control his emotions during all of that, like wow, and then he got to pass that knowledge on to Wildfire. Such an incredible scene, like one of my favorite scenes in all of Ninjago ever, really. Just very heartfelt and sweet and touching. I loved it a lot. So yeah, overall, this is a really good episode. Not as good as 16 in my opinion, but honestly, for the second half of the season, all of them are quite good. My least favorite is probably Gangs of the Sea, but that one's not even bad. It's just like not as interesting as some of the others. But now moving on to 18, 19, and 20, I'm kind of going to talk about these all at once because it's like one big story between the three of them. And this is like the grand finale of them going back to Imperium to try to stop Beatrix and try to stop the Merge Quakes. Episode 18 starts with the Roz backstory. We get to see Beatrix's sister Zeatrix, which is a very funny name. I don't know why they chose to name her that of all things, but she's also an elemental master, which is very curious. I'm excited to see like if she ever pops up again or her elemental power pops up again. But yeah, she has like the power of the hexagons like Imperium uses for the logo. Very, very curious. And here we learn that Roz is working for a higher master, which we kind of already knew from like some other leaks that happened previously. But I'm very curious like what that means and who that is. I like seeing the ninja team come back together. I like that Jiro got a larger role in this part of the season. And I hope that we see more of the dragons get like actual names and roles in future episodes. But yeah, Jiro is of course the lightning dragon in the set, and they actually gave him like all the upgrades. And like watching him and Xanth fight Beatrix was a lot of fun. I'm happy Zane was able to join back with everyone, and I like the whole Imperium resistance. And then yeah, like the final fight scene's crazy. Beatrix with like the Mergequake gun just shooting things and like launching everybody into these Mergequakes. That's crazy. It was so, so cool. I was worried we were actually gonna lose these characters and like the next season would be about finding them again, but luckily they do all come back by the end. Kai and Wildfire were of course amazing as always. I like how they've really like learned to connect with each other after the whole thing with Heatwave, and they went to like go blow up the munitions facility together. Really looking forward to seeing them more next season. Aaron got to do more of his Spinjitzu power. I'm looking forward to seeing how that's built up later on too. Sora got to use her powers without Ryu, which I think that is her true potential, or at least close to it. She's getting there at the very least. And yeah, that scene with her parents, again, one of the best scenes in all of Ninjago ever. Very, very touching. And I think it's a very mature topic for Ninjago to be handling too. We got to see Xanth merge with a bounty, which is a lot cooler in the show than it is in the set. Kind of wish the Xanth figure in the set was a bit bigger, but I guess you can make it custom to that. And they did successfully stop the Mergequakes. And then at the end was Source Dragon. That's crazy. There was a lot to theorize about that. So yeah, there's the Source Dragons, and the Source Dragons are like the source of elemental power, which is curious. I like that idea, but I'm curious to see how they expand upon it further. Because I guess the Source Dragons create elemental energy, and then there's like deities that gift elemental energy, right? Because we know like the first Spinjitzu masters who gave everyone in Ninjago their elemental powers, right? But then Wojira also gave away 2 elemental powers. But maybe Wojira and the first Spinjitzu master got their elemental powers from Source Dragons initially, and they were able to pass those on to other individuals. Roz is teaming up with Jordana at the end, which is not something I was expecting. With the first half of the season, I thought Jordana was a character that we would never see again, but I guess she's kind of important. That's interesting. But yeah, Lloyd frees that source dragon, and he's talking to Ryu, and he's like, oh, this is a very special little dragon. A very special little dragon right here. By the way, thank you to LEGO for sending this to me. I love this guy a lot. I cherish him with all my heart. But I mean, to me at least, I think it's pretty obvious that Ryu was probably the Source Dragon, right? Maybe one of the original Source Dragons died or something, was reincarnated as Ryu. But yeah, there's something special about Ryu. He's very powerful. The Source Dragon acknowledged it. I assume he is going to grow to be as big as the Source Dragon one day, which that would be a crazy LEGO set if he did. And yeah, I think that's most of what I have to say for the season. Overall, I loved it. It is up there in my rankings. Ninjago seasons might be top 3 seasons ever. I know it's all fresh and new, but like, I genuinely mean that. This feels like a breath of fresh air for Ninjago in the best way possible. It like has all the stuff I love from the original series, but it's also introducing new things in a very fun way that builds the world and builds these characters. And I'm just left wanting more. I cannot wait to see what's next, and I hope it goes on forever, really. I think the merge was such a smart idea because the world just feels so big now, and there's just so much to explore, infinite possibilities. And this season left me with so many questions, like what's the deal with the Source Dragons? What's Roz up to? Where are we gonna see Jay again? Does Cole have a boyfriend? I don't know. Well, I think I know, but I could be wrong, I guess. But yeah, man, this was fantastic, and I cannot wait for more. I know a lot of people didn't like Crystallize. I didn't mind Crystallize. It wasn't my favorite season, but it was far from my least favorite. But this is much, much better than that. I think we can all agree this is the right step for Ninjago, and I'm really looking forward to whatever the writers and designers and everyone come up with next. I'm sure I'll have more to say eventually about this season, so go follow me on Twitter if you want to see that. I've talked a little bit on Twitter, but I've tried to keep somewhat silent so I can talk about it in this video. But yeah, it's hard to keep track of everything I want to say, so there's probably some stuff I missed that I want to talk about, so I'll talk about all that if it comes up in my mind at any point. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this season. What are your theories? What are your predictions for what's next? And let me know which episode is your favorite and which of the new characters is your favorite. My favorite episode, I think, honestly, might be The Land of Lost Things. The Last Gen is close. Riders of Destiny from the first half is close. But yeah, I don't know. I think part 2 is even better than part 1. It's the perfect mixture of being fun, but it's also like a really good story, but it's also not afraid to be silly and have like these one-off plots. And then in terms of my favorite new character, honestly, I think it might be Wildfire. I just love her a lot, and her dynamic with Kai is fantastic. Those two together are probably my favorite characters of this entire season. I did really like Cole too, but he was only in 1 episode, kind of 2 episodes. Sora and Aaron, though, I did really like too. I feel like Aaron didn't get developed enough. I want to see more from Aaron, but again, that's the whole thing, is like, if this was a standalone season and Aaron was like a Benthomar-like character where we never really see him again, I would have been like, oh, that's disappointing. I would have liked to see more from him. But with Aaron, I'm left wanting him to be developed further, and I know he's going to be in future seasons, so I think that's a sign that the writers did a pretty good job. I do like that Sora got a lot of the focus in the second half here, because of course Imperium does tie in with her a lot, and I think now that we're probably mostly moved on from Imperium, Aaron can have more of the focus. Not that Sora like needs to get out of the focus, but I feel like Season 1 Dragons Rising was more about Sora than it was about Aaron, which is perfectly fine, because there's so much more to come. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap things up here, because I'm going to talk forever if I don't wrap things up. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and as I mentioned, make sure to leave a comment with your theories and everything else. I'll try to respond to some comments if you guys have some interesting theories. We can talk about them in the comments section. But as for this video, thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.